comedy, the comedy niche, on top of everything, you always had this gift of
I've always
finding
loved
the
comedy.
best punchlines and, you know,
Well, no,
turning
I
things
do the
into...
punchlines.
You do a lot of the punchlines.
You do the
You do a lot.
punchlines.
Yeah,
So
I can tell you exactly what I contributed to the first rendition of Sketch of New
I'm
York.
listening.
Oh, you did a lot.
Joe wrote most of it. Joe wrote almost
you did more
all the
than you
sketches.
give yourself credit for.
I can tell you exactly my input on the scripts. There was, in Inconvenience, Joe wrote almost the entire script, and she's like, this ends in a long monologue, but it's not funny, like, because it just ended with that, you know, we should really be grateful for all the technology that we have in the world. And she was like, I don't know how to end this sketch, because it's just as a rambling rant there at the end, it's not funny.
I'm very good at rambling rants.
And I was like, here's the joke. The person who's grateful for their life is still mad at the subway.
Yep,
That's the joke.
That's it. That's absolutely it. You're right. We polish each other up.
And then the original end sketch, your idea was like...
5 actors walk into a bar.
No. The original idea you had before 5 actors.
Oh, yeah.
Because 5 actors was my script.
That's right.
Before that, you were like, I don't love this end script idea that I have. It's like a couple on a date in like a really loud bar, and they're vibing with each other, but they're only vibing with each other because they can't hear most of what the other person is saying because the bar is so loud.
That actually came from Satire Off Broadway. That actually was the end sketch of Satire Off Broadway.
And I was
didn't
like,
love it either.
I don't love that. What can we have? Let's have like a realistic thing. Let's do like a self-referential thing. Because this whole show is about the experience of people living in New York City.
Yeah.
It's a very New York experience to be an out-of-work actor hanging out in a bar with your friends. And I wrote like 2/3 of that scene as just like bantery back and forth dialogue. And then I was like, I need a character who's going to tie this together. Let's have a couple of big chunky monologues in here. Hey, babe,
I got this.
Throw in some big chunky monologues that are just you talking.
1, 2, 4, and 5 are Darien. 3 is all me.
And those are 1, 2, 4, and 5 are all like back and forth based on things that we actually say.
Yeah.
all the time. God, I need new headshots that we all say.
So if you were to go above and beyond with a Sketch of New York idea and the brand, if you were to just go totally out of character and make changes, what kind of changes would that be?
Changes? My only changes...
Still to stay true to the vision and to the brand.
I mean, my only changes would be that I would want are just ways of elevating it. I would want it to be able to be bigger. I would want to be able to reach a bigger audience. I would want to be able to work with more actors. I would want to be able to take care of them, and I would love to be able to pay people what they deserve. I would love to be able to...
The biggest thing is missing. What do you think is missing?
Honestly, I think it's partly a question of outreach, partly a question of resources. If we had thousands and thousands of dollars, we're a nonprofit, we have no money. If we had thousands and thousands of advertising dollars, I would love to be able to do something where we could bring tourists in. Yeah, you could go see The Lion King, or you could go see something much more genuinely New York in a bigger space with, I would love to be able to just reach a bigger audience. The unfortunate fact of the matter is that the overwhelming majority of people who come to see theater, until you have millions of dollars, are people who hear about the show. It's almost always people who know somebody involved in the show in some way. So I would love to be able to finally break that barrier. I would love to be able to bring people who have no idea what this is. We get them every once in a while, but not often. And I would love to be able to get more of them.
I would love a wheelchair-accessible space.
Oh, God, yes. Yeah. I would love our own space. If we're talking about fantasizing.
Pie in the sky,
I would love to have my own theater.
Producers Club is great.
I do love the Producers Club, but I would love my own. I would love my own. Yeah. I do have a lot of loyalty to the Producers Club. They gave us a chance when no one else had any reason to. But I would love my own space. You know?
What is the biggest risks, or let's just stick to one. What was the biggest risk that you've taken, actually, that shaped the brand's success?
I mean, the very first show,
we had no job.
we had no job. I had $7 in my pocket that first month.
We had just enough money to rent the theater space,
and I spent everything. I risked it all. I had nothing left. My back was against the wall, and I had nothing left. And it was either this or nothing. And I took a chance. But
what was the biggest failure that
I think we already told
that led into a breakthrough, actually?
I think it was that story, actually.
Yeah,
it was the lack of scheduling and logistics that we have figured out since then because of those failings.
Stuff like scheduling, stuff like just a lot of like things falling by the wayside that I then realized, oh, I could do that better by doing this or by doing that. And I have kind of cobbled together my like spreadsheet system where we keep track of, trying to make sure everybody gets an equitable distribution of roles.
And we have had other ADs when you've been out of town. We've had other people step in and look at your system and go, what the hell? But it makes sense. It does. Yeah. To you mostly, but it makes sense enough to work.
Yeah, a lot of the way we do things now is a result of, that I could do this better. I wouldn't say those are necessarily missteps as much as missed opportunities.
It's learning experiences.
Yeah. And
how do you keep your creative spirit alive?
It's largely through working with the people that we work with. It's people who come in with new stories. It's people who come in with, it's inspirational. Part of the thing about theater is nobody tends to stick around. Everybody always wants a long-running gig, but there's always another gig, and people always move on. So it's very challenging to get people to come back and continue to work with us. But when they do, we have people we've worked with 7, 8, 9 times in a row. We've had people we've worked with who have done repeated alumni shows and haven't seen me since before my transition, before COVID, and then they come back. And they have more to bring to the table. It's always exciting.
Alumni shows are part of that, too. Yeah. The opportunity to write new sketches for a new group of people. I love workshopping, too. I really enjoy being able to... Somebody comes in with an idea or, like, a snatch of dialogue and being able to help them take that from the idea to a scene, and then from a scene to a scene that's funny.
Yes.
Seeing things grow and seeing is what people bring to it's a collaborative art form. Yeah. We are not dictators. We can't be. We are not emperors. We come in and we work with people, and they work, and it's.
How do you trust that because the people that most of the actors that you cast and you give your sketches to, you don't know them? And you just audition them and they come. How do you trust that the show, because the rehearsal is very short. It's like 3 weeks.
Well, I'll tell you, most productions don't get longer than 3 weeks to rehearse nowadays.
Exactly.
Anyway, it doesn't matter.
It's a short amount of time that you do the rehearsals. And how do you trust that your show will go smoothly?
We know what we're doing. Not to toot my own horn or anything, but the material is easy. It is not super challenging.
We have written this to be something that you can perform well with 3 weeks of rehearsal. It's not something.
It's really not hard.
It's not super dense. It's not like something like Chekhov where you have to analyze every word that you're saying to find the layers of meaning. No, it's going to play best when you play it naturally. And
if you're having fun with it. If you're having fun, so will the audience.
Honestly, the biggest stumbling block that we run into is when actors don't trust themselves.
That really is the hardest part.
It really, really, it's not even close. That's the hardest part.
Most of what I do is just giving people the tools that they need to convince themselves that, no, I actually can do this. And you'd be shocked at how hard that can be sometimes.
Yeah. That's part of the casting process as well, is that most of the actors we work with are experienced and professional enough to have some kind of training or resume at least. But we have to balance the amount of experienced people with the amount of new people with skills, or you can kind of tell in an audition when somebody's getting a little bit anxious. You have to balance the number of anxious people with the number of confident performers, because when you have majority confident performers, then those slightly neurotic people who are talented but don't believe it, the rest of the cast can give them that confidence.
Honestly,
as well.
we could talk all day about that. Yeah. Managing casts is a skill.
Have you ever had any disastrous events at the show during the show, and how did you handle them while the audience were sitting there and disaster happened on the stage? Do you recall a moment that you can share?
Not truly disastrous. What were you going to say?
I wouldn't say on stage that. I don't know if anything monumentally terrible has ever happened.
Not truly disastrous.
Anything that did not go your way or did not go.
Oh, that happens all the time.
in our first alumni show, which we did at the end of 2016, that was our first time inviting people back to work with. We got a bunch of really enthusiastic people. It was a really great show. That was our Christmas show at the end of the year. And that year, the norovirus was going around. So
Oh.
between people getting sick and people saying, I'm going to go leave on Monday to go home and see family, I don't want to get sick.
We lost fully half the cast.
Oh, man, it was so rough. That was like not during the rehearsal process.
Nope, just
that
during
was
the show weekend.
Performance weekend.
Yep.
Between Friday and Sunday. That was, I had to go on for like half the show.
Oh.
Anytime I'm on stage, it's because something has gone wrong last second.
Yeah.
But yet, even then, people still had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Our sketches were still really good. The audience had fun. That very last show, that was a very small audience too. But
we did it.
Yeah, those handful of people still really enjoyed it. They were laughing uproariously, I remember.
And that's really what it's all about for me. It's all about the audience.
Yeah.
It's not about me. It's not about my ego. It's not about, I feel like if actors are doing it just to placate their own ego, and I'm doing it for that. I have a tradition, a little ritual that I do after every single show, at the end of every single night, is I go to the empty stage with any leftover ginger ale. We use ginger ale as a prop, with any leftover ginger ale. And I sit on the stage in front of the empty audience. I toast the audience, finish whatever I have left, and then I clean up and go home. That's what it's all about for me. It's all about something almost sacred and entertaining. I could easily have an easier life. I could easily have an easier life. I could easier have a more lucrative life. If I wasn't ethical, I could take it. I've seen unethical shows take such advantage of people. Yeah. I could be rich if I wanted.
We don't have performance fees.
Yeah, thank God.
What is performance fee?
Oh, there are shows out there that literally charge actors. Yeah. You can be in the show if you pay us.
Pay to play shows.
Or if you bring a certain number of audience members.
And honestly, when you have to rent a venue, I can understand where that comes from.
I get it, but I will never do it.
No.
The ethics of our show are extremely
My high school theater company used to do that.
What would be your advice to actors and aspiring artists who are looking into creating their own shows on their own theater company?
You'd be surprised what you can do. And the hardest thing that holds people back is themselves, is their own uncertainty. Take it from someone who is transgender. Your own internal fears of what could happen are always worse than the reality. Just do it.
That was beautiful. That was so beautiful. So we hear from people who have done it, just do it. And what if you don't have any idea what to do first?
Well, that's the first part.
The best thing I would say is to do other people's stuff first.
Yes.
That's the way, because the more that you are involved in other people and other work in the industry, you get to see how things work.
Yep.
Sometimes how things don't work.
Yep.
And you get to meet people with skills and resources that you don't have.
I only do this because I was the AD of another show. My origin story, I told it earlier. I learned how to do it. I had to do that by getting off my butt and doing stuff. Yeah. Doing stuff that was stupid. Bad stuff. But it was not good stuff.
And that's also part of why we do A Sketch of New York the way we do, is so that we can meet people and so that other people can meet people, so that we will work with somebody who says, I work with this camera crew and we're looking for stuff to film. So that's a way to make connections that way. Yeah, really, honestly, the best way to learn the industry and to learn how things get done is to do other people's things until you've seen enough and experienced enough that you know kind of how it works. And you make connections, like how Joe knew Freddie at the Producers Club from doing this other thing.
I would never have been able to do it if I didn't know that, if I didn't have that connection.
That really enabled us to
And he still barely trusted me. But the more you do, the more you learn how to do. Yeah. And people prioritize what ultimately matters to them.
That's true. What are some of the valuable lessons that you learned from your actors throughout your journey?
From our actors. I would say trust yourself is a big one, because when you're in your own head, you see all of your own anxieties, you hyper focus on what you think you're doing wrong,
and you're not connecting with the audience.
Yeah, and you're desperate for somebody else to like tell you what to do, tell me how to be good because I don't know how to be good.
Yeah.
But when we are watching this actor sitting outside, we just see the actor doing a good job, and they're like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I don't know if I'm doing something wrong. Can I do this better?
Genuinely, the biggest note I give people is, "You're fine."
Just calm down.
Actors never trust that they're doing a good job.
Trust me, if you were doing something wrong, I would tell you.
My name is the one on the poster. It's going to reflect poorly on me more than you, really more than anything else.
If I haven't given you a note about something, it's because you're doing fine. And, that's something that I certainly need to internalize myself, because I have the same bad habits of, anxiety and somebody please direct me because I don't know what I'm doing. But, watching other people who, from the outside, we cast them because they look and seem and act perfectly competent. And hey, if you can act competent as an actor, you are competent. Yes. That's the job.
Because you're acting.
That's actually one of the things that I really enjoyed, and loved about the Sketch of New York and working with you guys. You guys, give so much trust and so much power to your actors, and you don't really micromanage, if it's a good word, and control the outcome. You just say, just be yourself and have fun. Joe, you do a wonderful speech before every show. Could you you just gather us before we take the picture? You do a wonderful speech that gives so much energy and so much self-empowerment. Will you share that speech?
I mean, it's never always the same. It's, I'm not that regimented. Gosh, what do I say? I guess before the last day, I often say things like, well, first of all, thank you. Because everything I said before, right? We couldn't do this without you, and without driven, ambitious, professional people who think that we are work worth doing. I am honored this is how we get to work. I really am.
But something about not to sell yourself short.
Well, I also tell people to stay busy, keep active, keep working, because, it is really important to continue to do that. It's really easy to rest on your laurels and think I did a good job and now I can be done, but it's pushing yourself. Theater is all about momentum. What are you going to do tomorrow? That's the one thing I do always say.
And thank you for sharing that. Yes, in the evolving comedy scene this day and age, how do you keep up with the theme of the Sketch of New York and the evolving comedy scene, and still stay true to the core of the Sketch of New York?
Well, very, very, very little of what we write, at least in our flagship show, is reliant on the moment. We very rarely do any kind of political or social commentary in the exact moment. There's one sketch that relies on a few specific pop culture references, but one part of the reason that it works is that 9 years later, somehow it's still relevant. And all the actors that we reference by name are still relevant. And that's part of a criticism on the industry itself. For certain other specific sketches, we will write about the specific, often in alumni shows where it's that contained 3-week process.
That's the thing that makes me sad about alumni shows, is when we write a really good sketch that only works right now.
Yeah.
And by this time next year, it won't be current anymore, so it won't work. And that's also like the ephemeral nature of theater, though.
That's true. That's the thing about it, is it's theater is just about this moment in time, and it'll be gone afterwards. But that's kind of magical. The great thing, how do we keep relevant to the comedy? I think comedy's always the same. I think comedy is... At its root. At its core, it is always, always the same. We think there is something a little messed up about how we are living. And I want to point that out. That, at its core, will never change. And always be punching up, because there's so much up there to punch at.
That's right. That's true. Well, thank you so much, Joe and Darien. It was such a great time. Thank you for making time for me in your busy schedule and coming up on the show. And hope to come back on the show and have fun.
Yeah, hey, thank you for having us. We'll be here anytime.
Yeah, looking forward to the next thing we do with you.
Yeah, like whether it's our show or yours, we'll be happy to work with you.
Lovely, lovely. It would be my pleasure. Have a lovely day.
Thank you.
You too.